Hello, God bless, and welcome. I'm Kevin Haggerty, and this is the Godlogic Project.
Shut up, Kevin.
That's right. I'm Kevin Haggerty. That's Mike Houston telling me to shut up like he does every week. I got two guys in here. They've been on the show before. These are guys I really admire. They do a tremendous job serving the recovery community. They got a really unique story, and we're going to get into that today. But first, I want to thank you guys for going to the godlogicproject.com and clicking on the Amazon logo and then shopping as normal, because Amazon is sending a percentage of what you purchase to the Godlogic Project, help to pay for this ministry. So if you go to godlogicproject.com and click on the Amazon logo, if you're going to shop Amazon anyway, it is a really big help to us. And then, of course, those of you that are donating via PayPal, you can do that on the website. And I want to thank you guys, of course, for subscribing, sharing our content. And if you would, here on Facebook, like our page, and you'll be plugged into every time we upload some new content. That's the business side of things. Now we're going to talk to Mike and Steve, right? Mike Gasparino, Steve Sundquist. You guys have an incredible story of recovery, a unique story, I think, and it's really the amount of time you guys have been together through good times and bad times. Mike, introduce yourself. Give us a little bit of your background. Then Steve, you do the same, and we'll take it from there.
Sure thing. My name's Mike Gasparino, and I'm an alcoholic and an addict.
Hey, Mike. Welcome.
Yes. So thanks, guys. So I'm 33 years old. I'm originally born in Texas, but I've lived in Florida for almost 20-something years. Consider myself a Floridian now. And I met Steve. My grandparents used to live next door to his parents when I was 5 and he was 3 years old.
Right.
And I guess we would kind of be like first friends, you know. But briefly about myself, like when I was that age, my family used to come to Florida from Texas every Christmas, certain holidays for vacations. And Steve and I would, my grandparents would send me over to go play with Steve, go play Legos, go play Lincoln Logs, whatever. And our friendship dates back, well, shoot, you're looking at 28 years now.
Right.
I'm in recovery now. I have a little over 2 years of sobriety. I went through an addiction since I was about 16 years old until I was 31, so about 15 years of battling with a crippling addiction.
Opioid addiction, I'm guessing?
Correct, yep. It started with marijuana and alcohol and led to raging opiate addiction.
Right.
When I was about 19 or 20 is when things started to really take off with the opiates. You're looking at the mid-2000s, right in the beginning of the pill mill days, right here in Florida. I had no idea what I was getting involved in. When I was that age, I thought taking a Percocet was like smoking some pot. Like, I didn't know the ramifications that were going to be behind it. Smoking pot, everybody does it. You wake up the next day, there's no consequences, whatever. I didn't know that weeks after starting my first pill that I'd end up dope sick and not able to sleep with anxiety and
achy
sweats.
and
Right.
So, Steve, then you were you're a couple of years younger, but you tell me a little bit about your story. How did you kind of stumble into the world of addiction?
Yeah, so I'm 30 years old. I was raised in Newport Richey, Florida, and Mike became my first friend. And I come from a good family, and I speak all over the place, and I say this every time: addiction does not discriminate. It doesn't affect the people that are less fortunate. It affects literally anybody. People from good families, people in corporate jobs, people, athletes. In my case, and his case as well. We came from good families. However, it just got a hold of us, without us knowing it. One innocent decision, and my addiction started at 15, after the first drink I had. After I had that drink, I realized that this alcohol gave me the courage to believe that I could truly be myself for the first time in my life, and I could be accepted by others. And the feedback that I got from the people at that party that night were, Steve, wow, like, we love when you drink, like, you're the life of the party, you're hilarious. And like, at that moment, all I wanted throughout my life was to be accepted by others and be, the center of attention. So from that moment on, man, my addiction started every weekend from there on. And, it wasn't until I got into my junior year of high school after I had surgery on my elbow that I found pain pills. And at the age of 16, similar to what Mike said, if you would have told me after that first pain pill I took at 16, if I would become a heroin addict, I would have told you that you're crazy. But that's what my addiction ended up with, is a full-blown heroin addict.
Before we get too deep into their story, I want to thank you guys, of course, for supporting the Godlogic Project. And here's a very important part of what we do here. If there's anything I can do for you or a family member or loved one, message me at godlogicproject.com. Send me a message. I have resources, and these gentlemen are in the recovery field here in the state of Florida, but I have resources here and outside of the state of Florida, and I'd be glad to help. So if you go to godlogicproject.com, email me a message, and if there's a way I can help you either spiritually or with your addiction, anything like that, I'm always willing to do it. And I know these guys are, because they're in the business now. They've dedicated their lives to that, and there's a lot of people out there that have. So don't think that you're kind of going through this by yourself. If you follow the Godlogic Project, I have a lot of folks in here, parents of addicts and loved ones and addicts themselves, that never thought they'd get out of this mess. And this is where the hope comes from, and this is what we're trying to bring to folks.
So in the beginning, man, I can tell you it was fun. You know, we were having a good time until it literally changed our decisions that we were making. It changed our mind. It alters your mind, your state of mind and body, like it says in the big book, you know, and like at that point, I didn't have control anymore. I know he didn't have control. I didn't have control. Most of our friends did not have control. All we were focused on was doing anything we could, hurting people intentionally, unintentionally, to get the next one. Because in addiction, if nobody's familiar with it, like, you have this tunnel vision, and all you can do is focus on getting that next one, and you'll do anything it takes to get that high. And in my experience, the high that you're chasing will never be the same as the first one that you got.
I know I'll never forget. You good?
Yeah.
I'll never forget the first time. Yeah, you're good. Yeah, of course, that beard gets in the way sometimes. I'll never forget the first time that I found out that I was what they call dope sick. Okay.
Yeah.
I was, I don't know, maybe 19 years old. I was using Oxycontin back then. And I remember calling my friend and saying, like, dude, I can't sleep. It's like 2 o'clock in the morning. I've never experienced this before in my life. Why can't I get still? Why can't I get settled? Why am I sweating a little bit? And I'll never forget, he said, like, dude, you're sick. I said, what? No, I'm not, dude. Like, I don't get sick. You know, I haven't been sick in years. He's like, no, you're sick. You're in withdrawal, dude. Come over, get yourself a pill, and let's do it, and the sickness will go away. And right then, my life changed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Once I learned what that was and the feeling that was behind it, like Steve's talking about, we did anything and everything we could to not feel that way anymore.
And what age are we talking about?
I was 19 at the time. He's, a couple years younger.
I started at about 7. I mean, I was addicted in high school. I just never had experience withdrawals until I got out of high school.
Yeah, so you had back then they were giving everybody, here's 100 Oxycontin for your toothache.
And that's where it went. Like, I went from being a little dope sick one night after, like, I'm doing Oxycontin, not that many. I'm maybe doing 1 or 2 a day, whatever I can get my hands on. So by the time that I was 20 years old in Florida, and I was prescribed 120 Oxycontin 80 milligram pills, 240 Roxy 30s, 90 Xanax, and 90 Somas once a week.
I remember the first time I was dope sick, I was on my way back from, I went up to Atlanta for a wedding with my family. I was probably 18 or 19 years old, and I had a few pills with me. I did them all, obviously. I mean, I'm in addiction. I can't rationalize,
This is bad planning. You're not in a position to plan, to portion.
So we were up there the first day. I felt all right. The second day was the wedding, and I woke up. I had the flu-like symptoms. My legs are starting to be jittery. I'm sweating, and I'm like, what's going on? And went through the wedding, obviously drank to help my nerves, calm myself down, and I just couldn't sleep that night, and that was brutal. So the next day, my family said, we're going to go to Six Flags, and I was just miserable the whole entire day. And imagine being dope sick, trying to walk around the theme park. It was it was horrible. So I told my parents that I wasn't feeling good, that I had to go back home to do something. I made up some excuse, because as addicts, we manipulate everybody in our life. So I made up an excuse that I had to go back home. I think I made it home from Atlanta to Tampa in like 5.5 hours. And it's crazy because I remember this like yesterday. When I was about 30 minutes out, all that sickness went away. And I knew that I was going to get high, and I was like, okay, I got a problem. This is bad.
Yeah.
And the second I did the pill, I felt normal for the first time in days, and that's when I knew it was out of my control. Real quick, Kevin, I need all of my friends right now to go on Godlogic Project and subscribe to the YouTube channel and give Kevin Haggerty a like.
Yeah, I
Thank
think
you.
he's right. I think that's a
Yeah.
great idea.
Yeah,
That's a tremendous
absolutely. And
announcement.
everybody on my page as well. It's not just a like. It's go on the YouTube page and subscribe, right?
Subscribe, yeah. Like the Facebook page. Subscribe to the YouTube channel.
So I run a group on Friday mornings with all our clients where I work at. And one of the biggest lessons that I try and teach in the group is to stop praying for yourself and to start praying for others. So usually what we do is it's a coin out ceremony. The person is getting ready to, go on with their lives after successfully completing our program. And what I'm doing is I'm passing around a coin to the rest of the people in the group, the other drug, addicts and alcoholics who are in the room. And when they get the coin, they're no longer supposed to be praying, God, help me get out of rehab so I can just be with my wife or whatever. The prayer is directed at the person leaving.
Yeah.
And the reason why I do that is because in early sobriety, my sponsor taught me to start praying for anybody, everybody, people you're mad at, people you don't like, people, whatever, family members, friends, people in your halfway, people everywhere. And when I started to do that, I started to care about other people. And my problems started to seem this big because I was concerned about other people's problems.
Yeah.
And it was just a lesson that I learned, and it actually changed my life so much that now I try and pay that forward in that group every Friday because it was a lesson that I learned that saved my life. And when God started to relieve some of the things that were going on with me, and then somebody sees that who's got 5 days clean, and they're like, holy crap.
Yeah.
God did something for Mike. Maybe it wasn't even God. I don't know what it was. I don't know if I believe or not. But Mike used to be a raging heroin addict.
Now look at him.
And now look at him. And that's exactly what that third step prayer is.
Well, how many times have you been at a meeting and you're talking to somebody and you know them, but you're not sure how? I could tell you my buddy Junior, he and I were friends for years while he was a crackhead. And I was friends with his brother. And here I'm talking to this guy that's put on some weight, clean cut his hair, showered, shaved, looking good. And I know him, but I'm not sure how I know him. I'm 10 minutes into the conversation before I say, wait a minute, you're so-and-so's brother. He's like, yeah. And I didn't know. I knew him, but I couldn't tell. I couldn't believe the difference in just a few months from the guy I knew who tried to pay me like $2.34 for a plumbing job at his mom's house. He's like pulling out lint out of his pocket. You want a piece of gum? I don't want you to do it for free. I'm like, don't worry about it. I got it.
Right. We briefly touched on, me and Steve knew each other since we were little kids. I was older, okay? I was the guy on the varsity baseball team while he was still, maybe in middle school or a freshman or whatever, and he's looking up to me. Okay, I was popular, or, whatever. And that's probably how a lot of our lives were. But sitting in that hospital room, Steve came to visit me. He brought me Chick-fil-A, and we sat down in there. And for once in my life, I wanted something that Steve had now. Steve had 7 months sober at the time. He was looking good. He was putting on weight. He was talking about prayer. He was talking about God, things that we had never I'd known him for 28 years, and we had never discussed anything like this. And the man had some type of glow about him. The man seemed to not be the same skinny drug addict that I knew. He was now like a genuine friend who came to the hospital where I'm dying, and he came and sat in there with me, and no one paid him to do that. Nobody made him do it.
So it's a program of attraction after all, right?
And I didn't tell him to do anything other than just to take care of himself.